Hey. Okay. Welcome back to my channel. I am Abigail Grace, or Abby, and today's video is going to be reading fantasy books for a week. Anyway, it's getting into spooky season, so I'm sitting in front of my fantasy and mystery shelf to intro this video. But hey, come on, come here. As we get into the fall season, I like to read less of my obviously like summery romances and get into other genres. So we're kicking that off by reading fantasies for a week. I've chosen 3 books that I'm going to read. I already started the first one. I'm reading it on my Kindle, and that is Fate of something. Fate of the Sun King. So this is actually the 3rd in a series. I read the first 2 last week and was actually so excited that this video was going to be filmed this week because I really wanted to continue this series. So I have started book 3. Book 4 hasn't come out yet, but it comes out later this year. And the premise is that the FMC lore, she starts out in the first book in prison, and you don't really know why. You find out later through a series of events that like she's been there for much longer than the other prisoners. She's been there for 10 years, and she one day gets into a fight, and to punish her they throw her into the Hollow, which is like solitary confinement, but it's like in a hole in the woods, and there's these like creatures that prowl the woods and supposedly can come and like get you. But so she's out there for a while, but one day she gets like, there's a riot happening at the prison and she gets taken, and she wakes up in Aphelion, which is like one of the courts. So there's like 7 courts or whatever. She's from the Aurora, and she gets taken to the Aphelion, which is like the Sun King's realm, and she gets told she's going to be competing in the Sun Queen trials. And the first book is called The Trials of the Sun Queen, and it's her, there's these 4 trials. It's kind of giving like selection vibes. She's competing against these other women to see who is going to be the future Sun Queen. But the whole time you kind of start to piece together that she's hiding something, and like maybe the real reason why she was in prison is like a bigger deal than we thought. And I fear as though I can't really get into why, even though that's really what book 2 and 3 deal with, because I don't want to spoil the series. It is a really good series, and I don't want to like spoil anything, which is so hard about reading a 3rd in a series for this video, is I don't know how much I'll be able to tell you about this book. But I can say that Lore has kind of teamed up with Nadir, who is the prince of the Aurora, and he is helping her kind of fulfill her destiny in a way. Like, there's these artifacts that each court has its own artifact, and she needs to find a way to get back into the palace and speak to one of the artifacts that will hopefully tell her like how to get onto her next step. So that's kind of where they are. They've teamed up. They're trying to get into the palace and figure out like what the next steps in their plan are. Again, it's so hard to talk about it without spoiling books 1 and 2. For now, that's where I'm at. I am 30% in, and I'm actually babysitting tonight, so I'll get to read some after I put the kids down. I have like an hour after I go to sleep before the parents get home, so I will read some tonight there. But just wanted to hop on and start this video. The other books that I've selected are going to be hopefully like both different vibes, like still fantasy, but different types of fantasy, which hopefully will be fun. So I'll see you when I have some updates on Fate of the Sun King. All right, let's do a 50% update of the Fate of the Sun King. I'm more than 50%. I'm 62%. Chapter 32. As I said, because this is the third in the series, it's hard for me to kind of know how to talk about this without giving spoilers. But they still haven't like made it into the Sun Palace, which was like their original goal, why they were back in Aphelion, to like talk to one of the artifacts, the mirror. But there was major progress on the relationship front, which is exciting. And this has been like a slow burn. Basically since book 1 to now, it's been like building up to them finally getting together, like such a slow burn. And we finally had like them getting together, having a good spicy scene. So that's an exciting update, number 1. Number 2, we've kind of revealed some things about both our main character Lore's power and her siblings' power and their role, which is exciting. Lore, from book 1, like she doesn't have access to her power. We're still working on that one, but we're making progress. I'm hopeful that by the end of this book, we'll have like a big reveal of like power unlocked, but we're not there yet. What else can I tell you without giving spoilers? That might be it. I was a little confused at the beginning because most of the book, we basically get Lore and Nadir's POVs. But in this book, they throw in POVs in the past that of each of the rulers of the different like courts in the past. And we haven't quite figured out why we're getting those POVs. I'm still a little confused. I'm sure we'll figure it out soon. But for now, like I would say that the POVs of the rulers are like break it up into sections, but they're like interspersed throughout, and it's just, we'll go into their POV and we're still kind of I'm still unsure why. I'm sure it's gonna connect, but right now it doesn't. And we also added a POV of Gabriel, who was in book 1 and was like the warder, or the person that like watched out for Lore while she was in the Sun Queen trials. So we're finally getting his POV, which is really interesting because he knows things that we now know because of his POV that no one else knows. So it's kind of like we're in on a little secret that everyone else doesn't know, that hopefully they'll be discovering soon. And I'm not sure how that's going to tie in, but I hope it does. So those are my kind of broad updates without giving spoilers about the Fate of the Sun King. Jeez, I'm getting all the titles confused. The Fate of the Sun King. 62% in. Hopefully going to finish this tonight. We'll see how much I can read, but the goal is to finish it tonight. And then that will allow me to jump into book 2 for this video tomorrow. So that's my little update for now. Okay, so I did finish Fate of the Sun King. And although this one was a little slower than the first two, I think overall it needed to happen to set up book 4. That being said, I gave it 4 stars. I'm like, the series is giving 5-star series. We'll see how it ends, but for now I've given it all of them 4 stars. But I would say I definitely recommend the series. So with that being said, I have 3, well really 4, but I think I've decided I'm not going to read this in this video. 3 options. Sorry, there's something stuck in my throat. Of what I want to read for this video. Beneath These Cursed Stars by Lexi Ryan. This is a YA fantasy. It's set in the same world as the These Hollow Vows duology, so this is an option. The Unmaking of June Farrow, which was a book of the month book this time last year. So I've had it for a while and I don't know too much about it. A woman risks everything to end her family's centuries-old curse, solve her mother's disappearance, and find love in this mesmerizing novel. So this could be good. And then I also have Immortal Longings. This is Chloe Gong's adult fantasy debut. And this is inspired by Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra. It's a fiery collision of power plays, spilled blood, and romance amid a set of deadly games. So all of these sound and look really good. I will say I'm tentatively definitely gonna read this in this video. That's such a contradiction, but I really would like to read this because I've had it on my shelf for so long. Both of the other 2 are recent additions to my TBR within the past few months, whereas this has been like a year. So I really do think I want to read this for this video, but I don't want to go into this right now. I'm going to have this probably be the last book that we read, and that means I'm going to decide between these 2 to read right now. This is YA and this is adult. They're very different. I already have read books in this world and know this world. So that would be easier to get into. Or this, who I know this author and I like this author, but it would be totally new. So I'm gonna flip a coin. Heads is Beneath These Cursed Stars, and tails is Immortal Longings. And I'm gonna ask. Flip a coin. Tails. Immortal Longings it is. So I will read this eventually, but not right now. So with that being said, I'm going to go into Goodreads. Kate's joining me. I'm going into Goodreads and marking this as reading. This is Flesh and False Gods is the name of this series. So we're going to put currently reading. There it is. This is not super long. Let's see how many pages it is. I think it's close to 400, which her other books are much longer. I would say closer to 500. So this is pretty short. There might be a bookmark in here. There is. Because I got this actually on my book club retreat that I just got back from, this book. So that's exciting. Let's get into it. I love to read A dedication always. For Laura Crockett, if book publishing were an arena battle, you would be my most trusted ally. And it starts with a quote from Antony and Cleopatra, which I don't know the story of Antony and Cleopatra, like, at all. So if this is a reimagining, I won't know whether it's good or not, or any relation to the story, because I don't know that play by Shakespeare, but maybe it'll inspire me. I'm like 5 pages away from the end of this book, and I don't have my camera out here, and I'm not going to move to go get it, so you're getting a phone clip, but I'm already shocked, and I truly don't believe what I have been reading. Like, this can't be how it's supposed to end, but there's a book 2, so we'll see. I did not see that coming. Like, I obviously can't say anything because it would spoil the whole thing, but like, the whole book you can predict how it's going to end. Like, it's like the Hunger Games with Peeta and Katniss. It's like, you know they're going to be at the end with them too, and in theory, they can't both survive. And I will say it does not end how Peeta and Katniss ends in the Hunger Games. So I'm like so unsure of where this story is going to go in book 2. Like, this is a reimagining of Antony and Cleopatra, the Shakespeare play, and I know nothing about that play. So maybe I should have like done some research into Antony and Cleopatra, and then I would have known like how this was gonna go. Because in Chloe Gong's other books, These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends, I knew it was a Romeo and Juliet retelling. So like when, and this is might be gonna be a spoiler for those books. If you don't know Romeo and Juliet, skip ahead. When they both die, I know they are not both dead because it's Romeo and Juliet. Okay. And Romeo and Juliet, they do both die. But like the other character, it's like I could pinpoint which character was which and know how theirs was gonna generally unfold. And unfortunately, I know nothing about Antony and Cleopatra. So I had no premonitions about how, what character was what, how things were going to unfold. I will be doing some spark noting of Antony and Cleopatra after this. With that being said, I've completed this book. And I don't know if I'm going to give it 5 stars. It could be like 4.5. Like, it's close. I need to do some thinking. But it was very good. I have loved Chloe Gong. And although this was her like adult fantasy debut, like, it's not much more adult than her other books. Like, they do have sex in this book, and in her other books they don't actually have sex. It just kind of alludes to it, but it's still not super, like, I would give it like a 1 on the spice scale. Like, it's not spicy. And it's just like the one time. Maybe book 2 will be a little bit more. I have no idea. And they're always very violent. Lots of blood and gore. But the other ones are like that too. So anyway, the next book I'm reading is The Unmaking of June Farrow. I'm not going to start that tonight. It's like almost 10. So I'll start that tomorrow. But those are my thoughts. Okay, so I gave you a little update last night. I was on my phone because this camera was incapacitated, but it's back. I finished Immortal Longings and I did settle on 5 stars. I need Vilest, what is it called? Vilest Things. It's in my cart right now, ready to be ordered. But for now, we're starting The Unmaking of June Farrow. I told myself I was going to commit to reading this in this video, so we're doing it. It's not super long. It's like 300 pages. Like I said, I don't really know anything about it. It's a fantasy, I think. After her grandmother's death, June discovers a series of cryptic clues regarding her mother's disappearance, except these only lead to more questions. But could the door she once assumed was a hallucination be the answer she's been searching for? The next time it appears, June realizes that she can touch it and walk through the threshold. And when she does, she embarks on a journey that will not only change both the past and the future, but also uncover the lingering mysteries of her small town and entangle her heart in an epic star-crossed love. Okay. So this was my book of the month from October of last year, so basically a year ago. We're taking off the dust jacket because I don't like to read with the dust jacket on, but it does have the nice little embossed October 2023 on it. This battery is about to die, so I'm gonna say goodbye for now. I'm gonna charge this battery and I'll be back once I have some updates about The Unmaking of June Farrow. Okay, I'm currently babysitting and the kids are asleep, so I'm gonna whisper, but I'm reading while they're sleeping. I'm probably like 40% into The Unmaking of June Farrow. And if you've read this book, you know what the deal is. I can't really say because it's gonna spoil things, but like it's really confusing. Like the timeline of how it's all working is really confusing to me. So I've just decided not to think about it. Like if I try and like picture in my mind the timeline of like, okay, this is where we are, like then this, you know, not gonna happen. I'm gonna get more confused. So I need to just fake it till I make it and keep reading and pretend that I know what's going on, because hopefully eventually I'll figure out the situation. But right now I'm confused and I don't really know where the story is going. Also, I know this video is reading fantasy books for a week. I thought this was a fantasy, but I will say it's not. It's magical, that's for sure. There's magic, and it's kind of reminding me of The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer, which I read like 2 videos ago when my roommate picked what I read for a week. And that it's technically a fantasy, but it's just mostly like whimsical and magical. There's not like really a magic system or like anything. Like June, the timeline I said is confusing, but at the beginning it's 2023. June is living in North Carolina. Like, so I'm still going to count this book for a fantasy book, but it is different. I would have to go and look and see how it's classified on Goodreads, like what the genre is on Goodreads. I swore it was fantasy, but maybe I'm wrong. And I can't check because I'm filming on my phone, but I'll look and see. Anyway, like I said, I'm like 40% through. I'm still a little confused, but like I am enjoying it. I'm like intrigued and want to know more. I want to finish, so that's good. But I need to give a little update while I was thinking about this, but I didn't have my camera, so what it is. So that's my little babysitting update.
Of your book?
Well, of my book, but just like of finding out, like, if the person that whoever killed Nathaniel, like this guy, either way of the options that are happening in my head, I don't really want either of them to have done it. It's like, maybe I'm completely off base and like something else happened, but like the options that are in my mind are like bad, like repercussion wise, like it's just like not good. And I don't know also like if she's going to end up with someone, and if she does, who it's going to be. I don't want to say that there's a love triangle, but there's a little bit of like a something happening.
Oh.
And on Goodreads, one of the genres was romance. So I'm like, is she going to end up with someone? And if so, who? And I don't know what I want, really. It's like, it's not like the Hunger Games where I'm like, she's clearly meant to be with Peeta.
Yeah.
I'm like, so we'll
Best
see.
of luck, soldier.
Thank you. But we're like getting close. I'm on page 260 and there's like 315 pages. So.
Are you filming?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yikes, sorry.
No, it's okay. But it's only 8:30, so I'll definitely finish tonight. Okay, I haven't told you this, but I created a note on my phone of, I'm not done, but I'm very close and things are starting to come together and things have been revealed. I made a note on my phone titled, you can't see, June Barrow, and there's two little things below that note that I, at the beginning of the book, predicted to be true. And lo and behold, both are correct. I thought I was confused. Turns out I'm a genius. Because I like knew from the beginning how it was all going to work out, but my brain hadn't connected how. Anyway, I'm smart. You're smarter than you think too. I've got about 15 pages left. I'm like so close to the end. And I'm feeling good about where it's going. I was nervous. At first I was scared. Then I was excited. Then I was scared again. Or however that TikTok sound goes. But that's how I'm feeling right now. But we will persevere. Again in this sweater that I wear all the time. Don't know that I've worn it in this video, but I've definitely worn it in the last few videos. Anyway, I finished The Unmaking of June Farrow, so that concludes this video. I read a third book, but it was on my Kindle, but The Unmaking of June Farrow. I finished it about a week ago now, and I'm just getting around to talking about it, but I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. I think I filmed a little on my phone and clips on here the night that I ended up finishing this. So you have some of my thoughts from that time, but just kind of to recap, bring it all together. I had my note with my guesses and both of them turned out to be correct, so I'm always going to hold myself to that and just feel like the smartest person alive because of that, because this book was a little confusing. I do think there has to be some suspension of disbelief. Like, it's magical and the timelines are a bit confusing and you really don't understand until the end how it works. And you should just not try and understand because you won't. Or maybe you will, but you might be wrong. It comes together beautifully at the end, and I think it's one of those books where there is a mystery here. It's kind of a murder mystery vibes mixed in with this like urban fantasy or like modern fantasy, because it's not urban, it's rural, but all of these different genres come together. There's some romance. There's actually really good romance. I thought there was a bit of a love triangle. There kind of is, but it's not anything crazy. But it all comes together so well at the end where you're not like, this makes sense kind of, but I don't really see where it came from. No, it's like, oh, this was that, and this is, and it all you see how it wove together, but you don't get that picture until the very end, which is really cool and well done. So I gave this one 4.5 stars. Like I said, I gave Immortal Longings 5 stars. 5 stars. I read these, like I said, a week ago. I did finally buy the second book to this series, which I'm excited about. I keep thinking about this world. I gave it 5 stars for a reason, but I'm very excited to read book 2. And I know there's a third book that hasn't come out yet, obviously, or maybe not obviously, but it hasn't come out yet. So I'm slowing myself down because I don't want to fly through the first 2 books and then have to wait a year for book 3. I probably will still have to wait a while, but I'm slowing down a little. But that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video or somewhere else on the internet. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram, everything else down below. Bye guys.